Hello, and welcome back to JKernifer Astrology. My name is Jenny, and I transform lives through the mediums of tarot and astrology. Today, we're here to discuss the most abundant full moon of the year, happening on May 23rd, 2024 at 9:53 Eastern Standard Time. 2 degrees, the constellation Sagittarius. 2 degrees of Sagittarius falls within the first decan of Sagittarius, the first 9 degrees, which is both ruled and sub-ruled by the planet Jupiter, the planet of luck, wisdom, abundance, and expansion, bestowing lofty, sky-high ideals and a deep love of knowledge, experience, freedom, and adventure, often expanding their perspective with each experience and each trip. Sagittarius is a mutable or adaptable fire sign, known for its adventurous spirit and optimism. Its glyph is the pointed arrow of the archer, symbolizing moving away from earthly materialism, greed, instant gratification, and gluttony, as the arrow points to the higher self, higher ideals, higher consciousness, or God consciousness. The hunter loves the pursuit, the process, and the thrill of the chase. A Sagittarius's most likable trait is that they are incredibly fun to be around. Sagittarius moon and Gemini moon, I've found, are the two most fun moon signs in the entire zodiac. Now, we can always find balance in our energy by looking to that sign's opposite. On social media, this is going around as your sister sign, but it's the same thing. These energies fall on an axis, and through their axis of opposition, we're able to find balance. In order to have a full moon, the sun and moon have to be in opposite parts of the sky or universe in order for the moon to be able to reflect the light of the sun back to us fully like that. That means that the sun, symbolizing our collective soul mission, what we're collectively embodying or learning to embody, is pitted against, via opposition, which usually plays out in our interpersonal relationships, against the moon, representing our most private, emotional selves and nature. In the case of the full moon in Sagittarius, the moon is in Sagittarius while the sun is in Gemini. The Gemini-Sagittarius axis of opposition is the most dynamic in the entire zodiac. It's all about communication, with Gemini collecting the information, gathering the details, talking about ideas, and Sagittarius taking those ideas into mastery. You can think of Gemini as the facts, the details, the process of gathering the information and synthesizing it, and then disseminating it in some form, whether through writing, journalism, storytelling, or marketing. Sagittarius, on the other hand, rules universal themes, philosophies, and knowledge that's taken to mastery, such as through higher learning or through a professional degree. Gemini is your elementary or K-12 school teacher, while Sagittarius is your university professor. When I was born, the moon and Mars were aligned in the constellation of Gemini, the twins, Castor and Pollux, at the exact time of my birth. The constellation Libra was rising on the horizon, meaning that several placements, including Uranus and Neptune in conjunction in Capricorn, fall into my 3rd house. Whichever house your Uranus falls into represents your aura, or your overall energy. Uranus in the 3rd house, therefore, gives me the aura of a Gemini. I even look like a Gemini. I'm fun-sized. Is it any wonder my first career was as an elementary school teacher? And I often used to tell the joke, although I may be smarter than a 5th grader, I am not taller than one. Full moons are always about completion, the seeds of which were planted 6 months prior during the corresponding new moon. So think back to Sagittarius season 2023, and more specifically, the Sagittarius new moon, which fell 20 degrees 39 minutes the constellation Sagittarius on December 12th, 2023 at 6:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What intentions were you setting at this time? What was going on at work and in your relationships? If you don't remember, it can be helpful to scroll back through your phone, look through your photos, your screenshots, look at your notes if you use the app, look through your journals or any of your organizers or planners, especially mid-December 2023. As for what was going on in the cosmos in December of 2023, well, I've got you covered. Rewinding back to mid-December 2023 to set the stage, the new moon, 20 degrees Sagittarius on December 12th, 2023, answered to Jupiter, which at that that point in time, Jupiter was retrograde, but only 6 degrees of Taurus, far away out of conjunction territory to Uranus. Neptune had just stationed direct earlier on December 6th, and Neptune would station direct just a couple weeks later on December 30th, making both Neptune and Jupiter very prominent planets in December of 2023. This Sagittarius new moon also kick-started a Mercury retrograde, which began on December 13th. This Mercury retrograde fell from December 13th to New Year's Day 2024, covering the territory from 8 degrees Capricorn, retrograding all the way back to 22 degrees Sagittarius, which is all about standing in one's uncompromising truth and sovereignty, and learning how to slow down to speed up. Mercury retrograde changing signs is symbolic of a change of heart, mind, or direction. Mercury retrograde through Capricorn specifically is usually about our mental blocks, any lack mentality, any limitations or expectations, and our long-term plans, our goals, ambitions, and our careers. Mercury retrograde through the sign of Sagittarius is all about freedom of speech, self-expression, and movement. It's focused on long-term strategy, seeing the big picture, and seeing the opportunity within every perceived setback. The Sabian symbol associated with this new moon, which would round up to 21 degrees Sagittarius, is a child and a dog with borrowed eyeglasses. This Sabian symbol is all about learning to see through another's perspective. Ultimately, and this is from page 295, ultimately, each person creates their reality through their own unique perception and then acts out of it. Take one step at a time to gain the necessary experience you need to obtain a position that you desire. Take a job, volunteer, or seek an internship, co-op, partnership, or apprenticeship where you would like to be. For more detailed information about the Sagittarius New Moon 2023, be sure to check out my YouTube video here. I'll also link it in the description box below. Congratulations, you are now in the deep dive. Moon in Sagittarius is a beautiful energy. Sagittarius wants us to open up and explore, to embrace optimism. It wants us to focus on the lesson, not the mistake, not the loss. It's about expanding your horizons through self or personal development, learning from others whose perspectives, backgrounds, and culture differ from our own. Sagittarius placements, especially the moon, are luck magnets. They're magnets for luck and opportunity because even in the face of difficult circumstances, they know that their lucky break is just around the corner. They trust the process, and they trust the universe, or usually have some sort of a close relationship with a higher power. They follow a religion, more than likely. Sagittarius is a born entertainer and leader, with gifts for writing and storytelling, and inspiring the masses. It's an energy that tends to be straightforward, honest, and open, and it's deeply driven for truth and justice. Mutable energies are wonderful because they're highly adaptable. However, a downside to this is that it can lack staying power. Look at Generation Z, for example, who have their Pluto in the sign of Sagittarius, born between 1995, 1996, and 2008. In shadow, Sagittarius energy needs to watch for rebelling against growing up, something I call Peter Pan syndrome. In shadow, they can view adulthood as an infringement upon one's freedom, which can manifest as commitment issues and a tendency to settle down later in life. Sagittarius rules the hips and the thighs. The glyph of the arrow is said to depict that part of the leg. And Sagittarius can struggle with overindulging. So watch for problems or flare-ups involving the hip and with one's blood sugar or weight. The Sabian symbolism for this full moon rounds up to 3 degrees Sagittarius, 2 men playing chess. If you're following along, this is on page 277. This is about learning to stay a few steps ahead and focusing on the big picture. This includes long-range planning and learning from prior experiences. There's a heavy accent on strategy here, observing the habits and behaviors of those whom you have to deal with on a regular basis, because there's a loss of freedom at stake. Be careful not to expose your cards too soon. Bit of an ominous message, interesting. The sun, 2 degrees Gemini, answers to ruling planet Mercury, which is now in Taurus as of May 15th, finally out of post-retrograde shadow. I said this in my previous Taurus new moon video, linked here and in the description box below. But that was one heck of a Mercury retrograde. It really began months ago when Mercury first entered its sign of debilitation or weakness, Pisces, where it struggles to think clearly and it falls for both illusion and delusion. After Mercury left Pisces, it entered the sign of Aries, where it almost immediately went into pre-retrograde shadow, and then went retrograde. We've been dealing with the aftermath of retrograde and post-retrograde shadow ever since. So we really didn't see this energy start to lift until mid-May, May 15th. 2024, when Mercury entered Taurus. Now that Mercury is in the sign of Taurus, Mercury ruling our logical minds, our communication patterns, the way that we speak, the way that we think, and even our voices. Now that Mercury is in the sign of Taurus, it can slow down. It's able to ground. It's focused on its finances, its businesses, and its relationships. It's working on things like long-term strategy and ideation, especially when it comes to making decisions, laying the groundwork, or collaborating with peers. Because it's coinciding with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, after both Uranus and Jupiter went through Cazimis, so now both are empowered in Taurus, fully reborn, we're laying the groundwork or foundation for a more sustainable future for the next 14 years, specifically in Taurus areas and wherever Taurus falls within your chart. Mercury in Taurus also tends to bring beauty to the voice, so if you enjoy singing, this is highly favorable. The Sun, 2 degrees Gemini, is conjunct both Jupiter and Venus, aligned at 29 degrees of Taurus. Jupiter is the ruling planet of the Sagittarius Full Moon, and Venus is its depositor, its ruler, when Jupiter's in the sign of Taurus. And Jupiter is now ending its 1-year sojourn through Taurus, this 29th critical anoretic degree carrying the energy of Pluto and Scorpio of deep personal transformation. Jupiter has undergone a year-long journey and, alongside Venus, has transformed on some deep level its values and the things that it finds most important in life. And after having received some curveballs from the universe with all the activity with Uranus in the weeks prior, in the aftermath, we're able to apply this Sagittarius positive outlook on life to navigate through maybe they're difficult circumstances, but we're able to find the hidden seed of opportunity within every setback. A few hours after the Sagittarius full moon, Venus exits 29 degrees Taurus and enters 0 degrees Gemini, inviting Jupiter to follow suit 2 days later on May 25th. Relationships may also be transforming or reaching a pivotal milestone where you're laying the groundwork for a long-term commitment or a future. We may see people getting engaged or getting married. And with all the activity with Uranus, there may be some people eloping and some very sudden or surprise wedding announcements. The Sabian symbol for the sun's position under this full moon rounds up to 3 degrees Gemini, the Garden of Tuileries. This degree point is about luxury and the fruits of privilege. This was the garden of King Louis XIV. It's about grace, luxury, and beauty, encouraging all forms of creative self-expression, enhancing our surroundings through fresh flowers, new decor, or a simple furniture rearrangement. We don't necessarily have to buy anything new to honor Venus or to bring Venus into our homes. We can do so by keeping it clean, clutter-free, clearing out dust, symbolic of karma, and inviting in fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, things we might be growing in our gardens, and fresh flowers. 29 degrees, that critical anoretic degree point, can also bring a crisis. In this position, in such close proximity to the sun, both Venus and Jupiter are said to be combust. In the case of Venus, Venus hasn't quite reached its cazimi with the sun. That'll come up in early June. So this is still favorable for Venus, at least until Venus comes really any closer to the sun. 3 degrees is pretty close for this full moon. Any closer to that, I would consider it to be combust. And exact, it's definitely combust. It's totally burnout. The best way to explain this is that the needs of Venus, so the needs for peace, the needs for stability, the needs for resources, are going to feel burnt out by the needs of the sun. The sun represents the ego, the self, so burnout by the needs of the self. Perhaps people are going to be spending a lot of money, so watch for the overindulging. In the case of Jupiter, Jupiter already had its cazimi with the sun on Saturday, May 18th. Very lucky day. So Jupiter has had a little bit of time to recover from its exact conjunction, and the sun has progressed 3 degrees away from Jupiter following that conjunction, meaning that Jupiter is now reborn and we're able to tap into those benefits under this full moon. Things that we've been working on for the past 6 months are coming into fruition. Some will be undergoing a financial change. There's an opportunity here to step back and show what we've built. And even better, the next step now is to pass that knowledge down and teach others. Sagittarius and Jupiter. Jupiter 29 degrees conjunct Venus, its ruler. So Venus in Taurus is facing a crisis. 29 degrees. That's expanded on a global scale by Jupiter, affecting Venusian and Taurian things. Banking, money, the economy, the global economy, agriculture, farming, the food supply, our source of water, our relationships with our resources, what we value, what we're eating, what we're consuming, and what we're investing our time, money, or energy into are all things that are ruled by Venus. Uranus is still considered to be in a loose conjunction to this full moon, closer to Venus and Jupiter. Uranus being involved in this conjunction can mean that we'll see sudden increased rates for things like land taxation, energy, food, water, travel, gas, natural resources, and it may be on a global scale. There's a big emphasis, Jupiter, on Venus, love, relationships, and money. We're deepening bonds as we overcome or shift out of lack or victim mentality, magnifying, Jupiter, our appreciation for what we already have, tapping into an abundance mindset. Mercury, Uranus, and Jupiter, all in Taurus, are answering to Venus. So when Venus shifts from 29 degrees of Taurus to the early degrees of Gemini, and that's under this full moon, just after this full moon on May 23rd, Venus will be reporting to Mercury's influence. Mercury is the planet of communication. Remember, our lower mind, logical thought. It rules Gemini. Mercury will therefore become the ruling planet for everything that's in the sign of Taurus. And since the Sun is in Gemini with Venus and soon to be Jupiter, these planets will all be in mutual reception. They'll be in cahoots with one another, working very closely together. Everything in Gemini, which is answering to Mercury, while Mercury's in Taurus, answering to Venus, which is in Gemini. Everything in Gemini that answers to Mercury, while Mercury's in Taurus, answering to Venus, and Venus is in Gemini, answering to Mercury, everything in Taurus is also answering to Mercury. This is a very long-winded way of saying that the energies over the next couple of weeks will be a heavy blend of Taurus and Gemini to pave the way and prepare us for Jupiter's next 13-month journey through the sign of Gemini. Jupiter 0 degrees Gemini. 0 degrees is a critical degree representing the purest form of that sign's energy. It is true, pure, unadulterated Gemini energy. Brand new, learning Gemini for the first time, indicating that the next 13 months, while Jupiter's in Gemini from May 2024 until June 2025, will involve learning the mastery of Gemini energy. Be on the lookout for people with dominant Gemini energy, like myself, as teachers and guides. Great wisdom will come to us over the next 13 months through the youth and through young leaders. Aspects involving the Sagittarius full moon. The moon, 2 degrees Sagittarius, forms a supportive sextile to Pluto, retrograde, 2 degrees Aquarius, manifesting an empowering transformation. The sun, 2 degrees Gemini, forms a harmonious trine to Pluto, retrograde, 2 degrees Aquarius. We're feeling empowered and we're sharing it openly, maybe on a public platform. This is all about communication and the power of sharing information. And it's happening on a global stage, likely through social media. 2 degrees is a Taurus degree, having everything to do with our money, our resources, our finances, our food, and our water. This can also be tied to our throats, our necks, our vocal cords, our ear, nose, and throat health, and singers. The moon, 2 degrees Sagittarius, forms an out-of-sign trine to Neptune, 29 degrees Pisces. Neptune, 29 degrees Pisces, so Neptune will actually be 29 degrees Pisces all summer. 29 degrees Pisces is right on the cusp of Aries. And in 2026, and for parts of 2025, Neptune will dip its toes into Aries, so we'll get to see what collective themes are to come. But by degree, if we measure it by degree, this is still considered a trine, even though it's out of sign, with Pisces being a water sign and Sagittarius being a fire sign. But maybe through this trine, we can see a little bit of foreshadowing for what's to come once Neptune, alongside Saturn, ingresses into Aries in 2025 and really in 2026. Neptune stations retrograde this summer, 29 degrees Pisces, at this critical 29 degree point, where we're collectively undergoing some sort of deep spiritual transformation, some sort of collective shedding of a victim mentality or mindset. This can also indicate this 29 degree point some sort of collective crisis, Neptune representing the subconscious collective. This can especially represent underrepresented populations or populations that one might find hospitalized or in some sort of institution. This could include those who are addicted to drugs or medication, It could include our migrant population, homeless population. Ultimately, the energy of the Sagittarius full moon is about learning to walk a mile in another person's moccasins. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed that video. And if you took anything away from this video, be sure to check out our other videos and playlists here.